I wanted to tell you a story because the book is full of stories, and my books always are, because I want to be able to take you on an experience with me. And many of you have read Jaguar Woman, I think. And Soila is in this book, coming full circle, a great deal. And one morning we awoke. It had been raining the night before, and we made some tortillas, and we had some cheese, and we had this kind of wonderful drink that they have in the Yucatan, orange and whatever. It was great. And we set off out into the jungle very early in the morning, and she was very gruff with me, as she always is, when she is going to teach me something. And so what does that do to me? That makes me start to feel very frightened. Apprehensive is a better word. And it had rained the night before, as I said, and so it was a little bit slippery, and I was kind of trying to be careful where I put my feet. And we're walking along, and suddenly we go off on a trail. It's not like the one that we'd ever taken before. And all of a sudden, we come to this drop-off, a canyon that falls deeply, deeply into the ground, thousands of feet below us. They call it La Caldera. And I look at this, we're standing with our feet kind of curled over the edge, and she says, okay, Lynn, you follow me down this trail. And I look over to the side, and many of you have heard this story before, but come along with me because it's always fun to hear. I hope. And there's this little trail, narrow, like this, going down the side of this incredible drop-off, thousands of feet, with a river down there somewhere. And I said, I'm sorry. So I cannot go with you. It's too frightening, too terrifying. I am terrified of heights, and I'm not going. I'm just not going. And she turned around to me with her eyes like black holes in her face. And she said, you will follow me, or we will never dream you again. Never. Which meant I would be thrown out and disgraced. That didn't matter to me. What mattered to me is that I would never see them again. So I meant, they mean it. So they're everything to me, the Sisterhood of the Shields. They have taught me, and I knew that I came into this lifetime to be taught. That was my destiny. And then to be able to give those teachings to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Diane Broussard, and I'm coming to you here live from my Diamond Springs Healing Center here in Diamond Springs, California. We're here today as a celebration to the legacy of this beautiful woman who did it all for over 25 years, constantly feeling the flame within her, like many of us are feeling, to ignite humanity, to bring us to this new earth, this new world that we all foresee, and many others are going to continue with. Before we move forward with my first guest, I wanted to talk a little bit about some questions people have been asking me about what's going to happen to the mystery school, what's going to happen to the writing school, what's going to happen to all the beautiful events that Lynn has every year. And the best way that I can answer that is that there is so many people involved with her graduate program, the Kindred Spirits. We are going to carry this on. So for those of you that are still interested, I would really, really recommend going to her website, lynnandrews.com, and see that this is all going to continue forward. Over 25 years of school, there is so many, many students that are graduates that are involved in keeping her beautiful philosophies alive, her teachings alive, and even more so now, because they are really coming into fruition now for many people. So with that being said, I would like to introduce my very first guest. Kathy Duckworth is Lynn Andrews' very, very dear personal friend. As a matter of fact, her Power Deck card was dedicated to Kathy. I know Kathy as my friend also, and I'm so glad to have her here because Kathy was actually with Lynn when she passed. And she's been with Lynn through so many ups and downs and roundabout during her career, which was not always easy. So I'd like to introduce Kathy Duckworth as really an amazing part of Lynn's group, of the Sisterhood of the Shields, of the graduate group, and kind of like the right hand man, woman of Lynn Andrews. Kathy, thank you for being here. My first question to you, and I ask this because so many people know so many teachers as being a teacher, and they have a persona as being a teacher, but their human self is a little bit different. And some teachers have a human self that is right on. I mean, it's right there for me with Lynn as a friend and as a teacher. She was pretty much there for me the same. I know she had her idiosyncrasies and whatever she had, but you know her best. You were with her. So I'm asking you now to speak to us about Lynn, the teacher, Lynn, the beautiful human being, mother, and writer.
That sounds wonderful. Yes, Lynn was all of those things. And I am so blessed to have had Lynn in my life. And I know that a lot of people have stories of how they met Lynn, how they came across her books. And that's always so much fun to ask people how they discovered her. You know, I left the country at one point because I wasn't very happy, went to Europe and lived there for a year, discovered Lynn's books, and all of a sudden thought, I got to go home. And I went home and I had to find out, after reading her first two books, Medicine Woman and Flight, I had to find out if this woman was real. That was a big deal for me, being a doubting Thomas that I am. I didn't believe most of these people were real. But, I went out and I met Lynn at two different book signings. And it took two for me to go through and ask questions. And indeed, this was a real person. And eventually, I started seeing her as a client, and eventually went ahead and moved down to Los Angeles, got to work down there. And it was so terrific working with her. Whereas one day she asked me if I could type. And I said, yeah. And she had this book that needed to be typed, and she wrote in longhand. I sat down at a little kitchen counter and I would type away. And I think that book was Teachings Around the Sacred Wheel, and typed away, and then began to see her as a friend through the horses. And our friendship just hit it off, where it wasn't entirely teacher, student, mentor, mentee. We became very close, and it was like having a sister. And I think I told you that, Diane, that she was a sister to me and me to her. We could be ourselves together. She could be the person that she was. And, people have these personas of what they have to be when they're in front of the camera or doing book signings or doing the presentations like she has done. And I had the great fortune of knowing her as that human being with all the flaws and all the wonderfulness that she could be. I'm very lucky like that.
I'm very lucky like that too, Kathy.
Lynn Andrews is my best friend. I just say that outright. And we've known each other for close to 40 years. And a lot of that time was working with her, typing, traveling, and hanging out, watching TV, being around the horses, cleaning stalls, and sharing our, intimate lives of friends and all. So it was very special.
And so what else can you tell us about what you learned through her teachings? What have you learned personally yourself as the divine feminine, the acts of power that she's taught us to do?
What I've learned so much from Lynn is gratitude and trust. and learned how to look at the world as a beautiful place and how beauty and love is so important in our lives. And that's often what we forget about. She has helped me over the years learn how to take the teachings, and you, of course, have read all of her books and done these teachings, and actually apply them in my life and the work I do in the everyday world. Having faith, accepting that we can be different and not perfect, and being real human beings and still being spiritual.
I love that, Kathy. I remember something talking about the human Lynn and the spiritual Lynn, but we were at Joshua Tree or somewhere sometime, and I was wearing a top that was kind of really tight fitting, you know, with something loose over it. And she told me, well, I wish I could wear tops like that, but I have to wear these shaman clothes. And I was like, that's so Lynn, because she was so feminine and loved beauty. And that's one thing that I know so much about her. Even her first book was based on her trying to find this beautiful, perfect medicine basket or marriage basket that was, you know, that she wanted. And I know that for myself, whenever we went to an event, she always talked about the beauty in things, you know, when we created things, and the beauty in a plant or in a rock, or she taught me so much about the beauty in life. I mean, I know you know her personally too, but she liked to look beautiful.
Yes, she definitely wanted to look beautiful, and she was beautiful. She was one of those amazing people who was loved by men and women. And I mean that in the sense that they were so attracted to her. And she exuded this aura of energy that you just could not get away from. You know, in that beauty, and she always talked about this, is in beauty is truth. And she talked about how when you look at a work of art, that's fabulous art, you see into that. I mean, C being the capital C, where we really look beyond just every day looking at stuff. And she said, you look into that and you see the great beauty, whether it's a beautiful writing, a beautiful painting, music that is so beautiful. And it carries you away and helps you to touch the inner soul of yourself and the soul of whoever it was and whatever it is that beauty. You know, you can take yourself into that. Lynn, she could exude beauty, and she could exude this self and soul of hers. She opened a pathway so you could go along that pathway. And even as a friend, you know, there were the times of, you know, we didn't always look so great. You take off all that makeup and you sit around and watch TV, but there's still a beauty there. Looking at the horses, you look for beauty. And she particularly liked the Arab horses, and they are absolutely gorgeous. And there are some people that have said, oh, yes, that Arab of Egyptian breeding, that's a lawn ornament. In other words, they're very high strung and do what they want, but they're sure beautiful to look at. And I think she carries that to all of us. And for me personally, helped me appreciate how to look at, like you said, the simplest things, a stone, the sunset, anything that's just out there, cloud, the beauty of that, and then be able to talk to others and show them that. And for me, as a teacher of elementary school kids, I learned so much about how to go out and help those children see the beauty in the sky, see the beauty in a blade of grass, see the beauty in the words, the language. It was so important for them to be able to share that and pass it through generations. You know, her writings did that. You go into them. They've changed people's lives.
Thank you, Kathy. One of the things I agree with on the writing changing people's lives is that so many of the things that I read, the things that teachers write right now are kind of very much in the mind. You have to think about them, and you can probably read 3 pages and think about them and process them. But Lynn wrote stories. She wrote stories about herself. And so you learned about her carrying rocks, or you learned about her being afraid, or even about her book, Medicine Woman. This comes back to me so many times, that she finally wrote her first book and went up there to present it with all of this, everything about herself with this book, and her teachers ignored the book and ignored her. I love that. They spilt tea on her book and she was mortified. And, they finally had to tell her that, hey, you're tied to your book. You need to do it and move on, let it go. And that just stuck with me so much, because I see people hanging on to their creation like this is mine, instead of letting it go and letting it have a life of its own. And I mean, she taught through her own experiences. And I appreciate that so much. And I'm so grateful we have this time together to talk about her and to let everybody know this is going to continue on, and her life will continue on through all of her students that are now in school and all the graduate students that will continue on with her teachings. And they are limitless. I mean, what she taught is forever. And I don't know the right word of what that is, but they're coming back to me full circle. I've really not paid attention to it for about 4 years. And all of a sudden, I think it was Ruby or Agnes or somebody started kicking me in the rib and said, you better come back, because we want you to do this. So we're all better off for what she's done while she was here. And we're going to be so much better off, even though she has passed, because she is still here. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate, I don't know if you've had any feelings of her being around. How do you feel about the future now that Lynn's passed?
Of course, I miss her desperately. And I know I told you this last time we saw each other, that yes, I miss her spirit. I miss her person. I miss her in the flesh. And it's a very hard thing to get over. Grief is very difficult. She speaks of grief a lot. Lynn wrote of death a lot in her books and letting go. And I think that a lot of people right now are coming back around. People that have been around in years past are coming back to her work. With her death, she's let go and allowed people to come back to her work, and they're going back to the school. They're going back through her books and reading, because as we all know, that when you read a story, the story doesn't change. The words are there. They've been there as they were written by this wonderful storyteller who teaches in such a magnificent way. It's each of us has changed. And when we go back and look at these books and read them again, they bring out so much more. And I think with her passing, people are starting to go back and go through them. And if somebody asked Lynn, which book should I start out with? She would say, go back and start with Medicine Woman, because it gives the beginning. And I would go back and read the books. At this point, they fill me in a different way. And of course, I worked on many, many of them with her. And I was very blessed to be able to go into that second attention, that place of where you get out of the mental. As you said, you take that away and go into the story and the beauty of the language. It was like music to my ears. It would go in and come out and could be written like I'm playing the piano and putting this music, these words on the paper and being able to edit with them. And Lynn was amazing when she would do her books, whether it was longhand or whether she was dictating, which she did a lot of because she would ride in the car and dictate her books. They were from beginning to end. They weren't chopped up and jumping from place to place and having to be moving chapters around. It just flowed through. It was real. She was real. And her stories are her life. And she gave that to all of us so that we could live through her stories and find this beauty in life. And that's a legacy that will go on forever. She gave that great gift to all of us in this world. And we're all blessed. I'm very blessed. I'm very sad she's gone. And I'm very sad that I don't have those 10:30, 11 o'clock, 12:30 in the morning calls from her saying, "What are you doing?" It's like, sleeping. I miss that. But I'm shifting to and learning how to step out into the world myself without that backup, and that's a big deal when you have to do that on your own.
Yes, I would say so, Kathy, because here we are, and I'm in the same boat as you are, but we're both stepping forward because this is what she is prompting us to do. And it's not just myself or you, but others too, from the sisterhood, but everywhere right now, people are stepping forward because we're being called to do this. So it's like I left you everything I could, and now it's your turn to take the reins and go forward. And I so feel that because I remember a couple of times when we were having some kind of a session with her and there was a pause and she'd say, "I'm here. What can I give you? I'm here to," and I mean, I could feel her heart. It's like, "What do you want from me? I'm here to help you. I'm here to teach you. I'm here to give to you." And it's very rare that I've heard a teacher that I could feel their heart touch my heart. Like she truly wanted to help. I'm so blessed and I'm so grateful that you're here with me today talking about her. And I have one last question from you before we can kind of wrap this up a little bit. And that is and I'm going to ask you this because now you do have to step forward. If you had something to say right now that would be encouragement to others based on everything you've learned from Lynn, what would you say?
Gosh, you just said so much. I would say step out there, be willing to shift yourself so that find that part of yourself that you can put out there. And God, I don't even know how to say this. It's go back and look at her work. Be willing to join. Many people are joining her school, going back to the first year, even though they didn't there before. Read some more. Take that knowledge, take those lessons out and use them and put them into your own world of whatever you do. I know I'm looking up and out there, but I'm thinking her spirit is with us. And you've said that so well. And when we say she touches the heart, she is of the heart and of beauty and of love. And when she would say, "Do you have questions? I'm here for you. I'm teaching." It was a really hard thing to do if people say it when somebody says, what question do you have for me? And you go, But now's the time for us to go back, look back at the books, find stuff that touches you, read that, and be of the heart, not of the mind. You're absolutely right. She did not do how-to books. We figure out the how-to. She gives us the stories. She gives us the meat, and we figure out how to use that and apply it to ourselves and our world around us. It's wonderful. She's a great gift on this earth and in the spirit. We are so blessed. We were sisters. Lynn didn't have a sister, but we came together and we're sisters, and so blessed to be that. Ups and downs, arguments, whatever, we come together, and it was a sister relationship that we loved each other. I love Lynn and always will. And there we are, sisters in spirit, sisters in flesh. Feed your soul. She would want you to look and everybody to look at beauty, see the beauty around us. We're in so much depth of such anger and rage and unhappiness that people do need to go out and see the beauty in everything around them and settle down, read the stories, look into yourself, sit. You don't have to meditate, just sit and rest your soul, pet your dog, be kind, smile, walk into the store, smile. It's amazing how people respond, and they will see that light, that aura around you. I've seen that already since Lynn's death with me personally, even more so than when she was living, although those last few months have been they were very difficult. But you have to set that spirit out there and show that the beauty is there. Be of the heart, be of the soul. And each person is different. For each person, that's a different way to be.
Even though I know that it's not like you to come out and speak like you're speaking now, but it's very beautiful. And I really felt your heart. And I'd like to thank you again for bringing that forward for all of us everywhere to feel and see. So grateful. And I hope that this information goes out to many people. And I think perhaps, as it did before, Medicine Woman is going to start dropping on the floor in front of people, being on a table for somebody to open it like it did years ago and has forever. But I feel it resurging because the words in the books that she spoke are for everyone and they're for every day. I thank you for being here with me. Carry on, my dear friend. I will be seeing you down the road too. Namaste, Kathy.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. It's been wonderful.
And I'm here with my very, very dear friend, Vicki Dobbs, who is a special friend of Lynn also. And we're here to talk about Lynn and what she's done in our lives and how we hope that she and her work is going to continue through the Sisterhood of the Shields in her life. So Vicki, do you have a moment to say hello?
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Diane, for including me in this tribute to our dear friend Lynn, who sorely missed, but very close to each of our hearts.
So what I'd like to do real briefly is tell you a little bit about Lynn and include a little bit of that into the miraculous experiences I've had with her and because of her. Lynn Andrews is the New York Times and internationally best-selling author of the Medicine Woman series, which chronicles her 3 decades of study and work with shaman healers on 4 continents. Her study of the way of the sacred feminine began with Agnes Whistling Elk and Ruby Plenty Chiefs, Native American healers in northern Canada. Her quest for spiritual discovery continued with a shaman curandera of the Mayan Yucatan, an Aboriginal woman of high degree in the Australian outback, or Nepalese healer in the foothills of the Himalayas. Today, she is recognized worldwide as a leader in the fields of spiritual healing and personal empowerment. A shaman healer and mystic, Lynn Andrews is widely acclaimed as a major link between the ancient world of shamanism and modern society's thirst for profound personal healing and a deeper understanding of the pathway of enlightenment. Lynn is initiated as a member of the Sisterhood of the Shields, 44 women who are healers from cultures as diverse as Panama, Guatemala, Australia, Nepal, North America, and the Yucatan. Remaining hidden, the Sisterhood has appointed Lynn Andrews as their public messenger. Passed from generation to generation, their teachings, born of the sacred feminine, have been practiced, guarded, and handed down from shaman to apprentice, mother to daughter, for over 5,000 years. Along with her Medicine Woman series, Lynn has written a total of 21 best-selling books and workbooks about her work and these women and their unique and deeply profound teachings. Together with her teachers, Lynn Andrews is the archetype of the personal active power, finding balance around the sacred wheel of life. She presents these shamanic teachings in her 4-year program in her mystery school, a 2-year program called Writing Spirit, the school, and provides online courses for conscious dreaming and manifesting your personal acts of power. Lynn hosts annual live gatherings for shamanic healing and empowerment in Paradise Valley, Arizona, Hawaii, and has led shamanic tours to Egypt, Peru, Alaska, Ireland, and other sacred sites around the globe. She has had a extremely profound, what can I say? She has been profound in my life in so many ways and in so many other ways. Just very, very briefly, I need to say that, and everybody has these stories, but for me, this is a special story. I'm a real estate agent, and there was a weekend that I sat at an open house and nobody came, nobody was there. So as I sat on the couch, there was a book flipped open on the coffee table. And that book was entitled Medicine Woman by Lynn Andrews. I had nothing better to do. I opened that book and that began a new life for me. I read every single book that Lynn has ever published. I went down to Los Angeles to meet her at the Conscious Life Expo, and I was absolutely changed. I mean, completely changed in my life, in myself. I realized that there was something more to me in my personal power of what I needed to do. And I can't even say enough about how profound this woman was in my life. She became a great friend, a teacher, a mentor. And just to speak one other thing before I let Vicki take over on her amazing experiences also, there was a time, and I remember this so completely, where I was down in Los Angeles and there was a huge room of people. And I think we were at some kind of teaching, maybe at the Conscious Life Expo, whatever it was. But I was sitting in the crowd of many people. And Lynn stood up there on the stage and she pointed down into the crowd and said, "You need to start a drumming circle in Placerville." And I looked around because who am I? Who am I? I'm here visiting this teacher. And nobody else responded. And I knew that it was something for me to do. And yet, how was I to do? Who am I? How could I do this? And I went home where I live, just outside of Placerville. And there was something that started inside of me. It was called a flame that was ignited. And without knowing how to do anything really at all, but yet some kind of way knowing how to do really something at all, it came to me that one of my clients said, oh, I have a room available over the top of my beautiful restaurant that he had for me to start a drumming circle. How do I do that? I don't know. I put something out on Facebook, and before I knew it, people were coming, and I was drumming, and I was talking about the teachings I had learned from my teacher. And that led to a time when actually I could no longer use this space above this restaurant, and I didn't know what to do. So the next thing happened is that behind my little house that I owned here in Diamond Springs was a bunch of weeds and all kinds of trees and thicket. And I thought, well, why don't I just build a barn back here and we can sit here and I can have my friend Vicki come and teach us how to make drums and do things of that nature. I had no money. I didn't know how to do this, but for some kind of way, people loaned me money. And I built this center, and this center has grown into something profoundly beautiful and is growing every single year. And people are coming here to learn about the teachings of Lynn and drumming, and even more involving it with the Stargate, which I'm also doing here. And my teacher, Lynn, in speaking to me just before she passed, was so excited about advancing her teachings and moving them out into the stars, into this world. And I can say that, you know, for me, meeting Lynn through Medicine Woman, here's this book, it's called Medicine Woman, was one of the books that changed my life, and so profoundly. Many, many, many women, I've heard stories, countless stories, where this book has dropped on their head. They've been in a library, it's dropped on their feet, and it started to change their lives. Lynn started back in 1979, 1980, and so did other teachers at the time. Cryon, Lee Carroll started channeling in that time. Prageet Harris started channeling Alcazar. Something happened during this time in 1979 where the world woke up, and Lynn was one of the ones to wake us up. And it wasn't easy for her, let me tell you. Vicki can tell you. She went out into the world, like many of us are doing now, trying to bring a story and to help those people that are feeling awake, feeling something happening. And we're the ones, you know, she was one of the ones. She left too soon, in my opinion, but maybe at the right time for all of us. But we are here, and we are many. She has students from all over the world, hundreds of students that are carrying on her work. And this is what this memorial is all about. And I'm going to turn this over to my dear friend, Vicki Dobbs, now, who will also add a little bit to the story.
Hey, Diane, thank you so very much. And, you know, you in your own right embody what Lynn has gifted the world by taking the teachings that have resonated with you, mixing them with who you are, and bringing them back out into the world as your authentic truth. So you truly are living what she has been teaching. And I just am honored to have been a part of your journey, to have watched it, to be able to teach at your center, to call you friend. You truly are walking the talk that Lynn has taught. And for me, gosh, I think it was the late 1990s that my journey with Lynn began, when, again, as a real estate agent, we share that in common. One of my clients gifted me a copy of Medicine Woman. Poor old faded pages falling out of its paperback binding. And I very carefully read it, and then went on a mad hunt to all the bookstores around town, trying to find the rest of the books in some semblance of order, because I loved reading good stories, and I read a lot. And I loved reading historical fiction and good stories about things that happened in various places in history. So I was hooked on the story. I had no clue the teachings they held. And that's where I was in my life. I was at a place of constantly doing. I had no clue what it meant to just be, let alone that I could be something other than what I had been told was a way to live. And wife, mother, now grandmother, business, just the world that tends to keep us spinning plates all in the air, trying to keep it all going. And it was an opportunity for me when I found Joshua Tree and then found the school to really begin to learn that there were choices I could make, that I could have boundaries, that I had the right to say no, which I think I lost when my first child was born. My pediatrician said I had a speech impediment. I had lost the ability to say no. And Lynn and I would get a good laugh out of that one because she as a mother struggled herself with saying no. And the shyness that we all feel when we begin to step onto a stage, Lynn herself felt when the book publishers told her she had to go on tour. It really freaked her out. She wasn't a public speaker. She'd never done anything like that. So she joined Toastmasters to learn how to speak in public. And I'm sure there's a lot of stories about there that we can all share of our experiences with Lynn. And for me, I just feel totally blessed to have literally been able to sit at the foot of my teacher, to work with her, to visit with her, to share meals with her, to travel in different places. I wasn't blessed to travel the world with her like many of her students were, but little short jaunts here and there, and to a lot of cafes, coffee shops, and restaurants. Lynn's favorite thing to do was to just share stories and brainstorm and talk over a meal. Didn't matter if it was grilled cheese and chicken noodle soup or some fancy steak in a big restaurant. It was just her way of having conversations and teaching. And I just am blessed with the hours of time that I was able to spend with her learning. And she made a writer out of me. She asked me to be a part of creating the second year of her writing school. And she handed me this syllabus, which made no sense to me. I said, I'm not the right person for this, Lynn. I don't have a degree in literature. I don't know who any of these people are. And she just would laugh and hand it back to me. And over the course of time, it worked beautifully. And the second year was choreographed into a class, a teaching. It's words are difficult to come by. When we talk about Lynn, the magic that she offered us, the mystery that she gave us a peek into, is one of those things that you can't put into words. It's unique to each one of us, but given the opportunity, if you open your heart to what is always going to be available there, her massive body of work, go to her website, lynnandrews.com. There are online courses, there's books, there's tutorials, there's videos. There's her amazing mystery school that starts again in January. The events, we're going to sorely miss Lynn. Don't know where that stands in our world right now, but the body of her teachings, the bulk of the beauty that she brought out into the world is and always will be available. And I think it's up to each one of us to pick up the mantle as the teacher she empowered us to be. She brought these teachings from the Sisterhood of the Shield to all of her students. We don't all resonate with everything she taught, but certainly our hearts were struck by certain things that we then picked up as our own, as the truth as we believe it, to carry out into the world through our own lives, living the things that we learned.
Wow, Vicki, that is really beautiful. And that is exactly how I feel also. There is really no words, because her teachings and her books, and I've talked to so many people, as you have also, struck everybody in a different way. But what it really did is it brought out the divine feminine, and it taught us how to take our own power. And that's so really been missing. And what she included, which I love so much, is that it wasn't so much about taking my power as a woman, but it was about how we also empower the masculine and how there is a balance, you know, and her medicine wheel was always about the balance. And that's so sorely been missed. And it's so amazing to me because when I finished the school, I actually had come full circle. And my book said coming full circle. And it showed me coming out of a lotus flower, coming full circle. Well, guess what? That was only the beginning of the next circle, because now I feel I have also completed another full circle. And it's only about completing each full circle in our lives. And I mean, that gives me chill bumps because I looked at all of the stuff I learned and I realized where I am now and that it was another complete cycle. And I also know that I'm opening another book into another new cycle. And this is what she taught, is that there's hoops. We continue to go around that medicine wheel over and over and over again. And it's fun. It's joyous. It's beautiful. And it's so much what we want to share with humanity, with the world. And I guess that's why I'm here today, is to just offer to my sisters and brothers this woman that brought so much to us, along with the other teachers and along with the time that we're in right now, which is, it's really time to wake up, guys. And we have amazing teachings for us from Lynn Andrews, and she's with us. It's not like the Sisterhood is with us right now. And they're asking us to go out into the world right now in our own way, to continue these teachings, to bring forth a newness to humanity. And I'm excited to do that. I know Vicki is so excited. She's taking up a lot of new things right now, as are many that are, you know, part of, I have to say, just part of the human experience right now. And the stars that I see behind me are all us. You know, we're emanating this new starlit future. Thank you so much, Vicki, for your friendship. I've known Vicki since before we were even involved with Lynn, I think, because our daughters rode horses.
Yeah.
And we were real estate agents, and somehow we connected. And I need to tell you, and she knows, people are connecting because the universe is doing this right now, connecting people. They're coming to my center and they don't even know how. Just, I'm told to come here. So we're here, we're awake, we're alive, and it's beautiful. And I'd like to just say one final last thing, that Jack Crimmins, who is Vicki's, one of her so totally many dear friends, had to write about Lynn in closing. He said this: Lynn Andrews was a change maker, a shapeshifter, a weaver of stories, a mother, a horsewoman, a teacher, a friend, a human. Lynn's gift was true thought, the depths of vision eye exploring into worlds unseen, the ancient and legendary dream time, and helping others balance the workaday world and the world of spirit. Lynn loved Los Angeles, Hawaii, the desert, traveling the world. Lynn loved poetry and art and earth-based traditions from different corners. Lynn Andrews was of the heart, is of the heart, as her books live on as teaching stories, adventure tales, mysteries, and mysterious, hidden, powerful woman shamans. Lynn loved to laugh. Lynn has been and is a wild spirit, amen, of the ages. We who have known her feel lucky, grateful, and blessed. Read her books. Find your own path. Let Lynn and her beloved Sisterhood of the Shields guide you. I love this part. Lynn is nearby in the faraway. Jack Crimmins. As the amazing shaman woman that she was, Lynn chose her passing at a time that was significant for her and all of us. 4:44 p.m. on 8/17/22. as a member of the Sisterhood of the Shields, 44 women from ancient times. And so, Lynn, this is my tribute to you. I love you so much. Thank you, Vicki Dobbs, for beautifully talking about our teacher, Lynn. I so appreciate what you gave us and the input you've given us about the beautiful books you've written and the life that you've inspired since you've met her.
Many blessings, my friend, and thank you for having me on. Lynn truly changed my life, saved my life at a point when things were the worst, and gifted me her friendship moving forward. And I will always cherish that and carry her in my heart and in my head as her voice speaks to myself and to all of us as the teachings will live on.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Aho.
Aho to Lynn. This is for you, my friend. So many people that have met Lynn have read her books and have learned to take their own personal power. And this is really an amazing thing, especially for the divine feminine, because we have been really wounded for a long time. Not to say that the divine masculine has not been wounded also, but we have. And her books, for some reason, have really inspired many, many people to kind of open up and wake up. And like she said, the dreamer is awake now. So I could name so many people that I know that have been personally touched by her books, her work, her workshops, what she's had to say, the Sisterhood of the Shields, who remains with us. And there is one thing I'd like to say before I introduce our next guest is that, yes, Lynn has moved on to a place where she can continue to inspire us, which is what she is doing. And so at this point, it's important that we continue with the work that she has given us. I mean, the book she's given us, the wisdom she's given us. If we do not continue on, it's like when you go to school, your teacher always wants you to be better than them, to carry on the work they've taught you. So this is kind of a tribute to her, what she's taught us, myself, and so many other people. And my next guest, I'm just so happy and proud because Scarlett was not only a personal friend of mine, but a friend of my daughter as well. And my daughter has also passed. She is with Lynn right now, and they are hopefully watching this beautiful tribute celebration of their lives. And so I'd like to read a little bit about my next guest, Scarlett Rivera. And she is so amazing because this beautiful violinist was one who came to our workshops and literally stood there with other musicians and played the music of the channeling that came to us. When Lynn would start giving us a journey, they would start journeying with us in their own language, in their own musical language. How they did that, I don't know, but it was miraculous for me. And it was truly part of the journey and the workshops that we went on. So a little bit about my dear friend Scarlett. Scarlett is Grammy-nominated American musician. She burned a hole in the fabric of rock history as a pioneer of electric violin. From a classical background, she bent the accepted norms by experimenting with all genres of music, from rock fusion and jazz to Latin polyrhythms. She was and is a revolutionary from the start. Bob Dylan was the first to recognize and acknowledge Scarlett, inviting her as an integral part of the legendary album Desire and Rolling Thunder Review Tour. Just remember that. That's so awesome, Scarlett. Dylan recognized the genius of Scarlett's vision as a violinist who played much like a lead guitarist. Scarlett's dynamic presence led the way to the inclusion of other string players in rock music. Desire was chosen by Time magazine as one of the top 5 albums of Dylan's career and was Scarlett's debut on the world stage. As the female member of Dylan's band, Scarlett was featured on 4 additional multi-platinum albums. She is known for her contributions to countless recordings and performances with the most influential artists of our time. Her abilities are wide-ranging and have enjoyed the spotlight in music's most hallowed Carnegie Hall with the Duke Ellington Orchestra, as well as the Kennedy Center and the Carnival of Venice, Italy. Her current Grammy-nominated vocal debut, All of Me, has been spotlighted with stellar reviews around the world. Scarlett continues her journey of expression and creativity, having performed with such treasured legends as Indigo Girls, Tracy Chapman, Eric Anderson, Peter Maffay, David Johannesson, and Sylvia Tyson, and Ian and Sylvia, and 5-time Grammy winner Cindy Cash Dollar. This is something that I'm reading about Scarlett from my heart. I'm going to tell you, she is a beautiful being that has really taken on what she's learned and just emphasized something very magical in the musical world. So I would like to introduce to you right now my dear friend, Scarlett Rivera. Scarlett, could you tell us, please, how you met Lynn and how she has impacted your life?
Lynn touched me before we ever met through her words, through reading Medicine Woman, and following that with Jaguar Woman. After reading Medicine Woman, I knew that I had to find her and find some way of working with her. And at that time, she had a contact at the end of the book, which so that, if you want to know more, contact. And I reached out to Delia, please. How can I work with Lynn? And she introduced me to a local group counsel here in Los Angeles. And that was the beginning. And first person I met at that council was Anne Venino, Hermano Venino, and also Cheryl Morris.
How did you come about playing music at Lynn's workshop? What did that feel like at her workshops, playing your beautiful violin music?
I realized that the music was like a vehicle for everyone, all the participants. We were actually going to be like the spaceship that would take them to the places she was talking about. Even though I was in the school, it was a little bit of a sacrifice because I couldn't be on the journey and be playing at the same time. So I was playing to take everyone else there to where she was speaking, whether it's to another planet, to the Pleiades, to a place underwater where we could breathe or we could run on the the plains of Africa like a cat, a big cat. I mean, I knew what to play based on her words. And so did our band. We were called the Shaman Band. Every meditation was different, so we had to hear what we were playing and the dynamic. Sometimes I'd put the violin down and just play the shaker or the egg or the rattles or the bells. And that bell would be just something she might say. And the bell was the exact right thing for everyone to hear because it was calling them.
That sounds like that's exactly what we're needing more of today, is to be able to allow ourselves to be free to move in to these different worlds. There's so many people today that I think want to be able to move there, but they don't know how. I'm just hoping that you're going to continue on this path, Scarlett, because it's so amazing to be able to take people into the quantum field, is what we call it, into that journey, into that world that we want to go, but we don't know how to get there. What is on your plate right now, Scarlett? Is this something still that's just beating in your heart that I really want to do this? I want to take people into the magic?
It's very important to me to continue this work and to continue the path of heart that Lynn taught us, to carry on her work, which is the teachings of indigenous cultures from around the world. They're ancient, ancient teachings. And the fact that her emphasis was the feminine, the sacred feminine, made it even more important because many spiritual traditions have existed and exist, but very few of them concentrate on the voice of the divine feminine coming back into the world to our rightful place, that we were actually brought into subjugation and stripped of that word and that power over generations and generations. So Lynn and her teachers are calling on all of us to continue this work. Everyone loved my songs, Voice of the Animals, and they were so perfect for so many of the meditations because she talked so often about the power of the four-leggeds and the winged ones and the spirit of the land and the voice of the plants. Through the songs that I created, like the jaguar, the eagle, I bring the sound of the wind and the feeling of the living plant world underneath the wings of the eagle as she looks from the north down and sees a great expanse. So also through the symbolism of being able to see like an eagle from the north, so that we rise above the petty things that attempt to divide and distract us. And she taught us the power of all of the directions, the south. Regardless of the power of a jaguar, the mouse has equal power, and that it's a power of listening to the earth and being close to the earth. And so there is a sacred honoring of every living creature, regardless of how small. And that is very intricate to her teachings.
I kind of drifted away a little bit, and before Lynn's passing, I was sucked back into, this is really important, this work of the indigenous, of the grandmothers, of the sisterhood, because it's really coming to fruition right now with the energy of the earth. I really feel that there's something you're going to be coming back with new about the four directions, because your music is so profound and it's so heart-centered, and we need this right now. We're going through a regeneration, or things are being brought forward for us in such a very profound way that I am saying to both you, my dear friend and awesome musician, and others of the sisterhood and other people around the world, it's time for us to get off our butts and move forward. It's time for us to speak. And I was called even to do this right now. And so I know there's many of us that have been maybe sitting back in compliance, what's happening with the earth, but I see you as this magical person. And I know that, what you've done is magic for us. And I'm just so happy that you're here so that we can bring this forward again to everybody and let them know that it's time for us all to step forward and make a change on this earth. So I am calling you, Scarlett, to go forward, especially with your music, because your voice is, when you listen to Coyote or Eagle, it's so profound for everybody. And I know there's more. I can feel it coming from you, that you have a lot more to say. So I am honored to be with you today. You have something to say right now to humanity as a whole, to, the divine feminine. What would you say right now to help us really move forward in greatness?
That we must overcome our sense of disconnection, which was not something happened accidentally. Disconnection was perpetrated and foisted upon humanity by, like the chalice and the blade, by the dominant force, and literally by force. We have come to a place of tremendous disconnection from nature and from the Mother Earth and from each other. And that is a path towards annihilation and destruction. And so we must reconnect with Mother Earth. We must reconnect with the nature spirits, must reconnect with the small animals all around us, everywhere, outside your window, wherever you are, to notice if they are in distress, to notice if they are in need, and notice that the animal kingdom is crashing towards extinction in high numbers, and many people aren't even noticing. So whatever befalls the animals will befall us. And I do know that, I can't quote it exactly, but it came from Chief's wonderful quote of Chief Seattle about that maybe everyone can look up.
I agree with you 100% on that. And I remember the quote. This is a call for humanity as a whole, because we are connected. And I think we've forgotten that part too. We are all connected. And if we reach out to each other right now through our own energetic field, we have the power to change the earth and where it's going. And it starts by one person reaching another. And so at this time, I feel that that's what music does, because it reaches many, and it's not something that's being told or said that you go in your mind. It goes to your heart. And when we go to our heart, we're then able to connect with each other. And when we connect with each other, we're able to see the world and see what we've been given, that we've totally taken for granted and allowed to move away from us. So I so agree with you, Scarlett, on connecting with Source, on connecting with humanity, finding the love again that we all know it's there, but we've let it kind of dissipate. So I'm looking forward to your next performances. I'm asking everybody to listen to All of Me, your beautiful album, which I love so much. And just for fun and kicks, to please listen to Coyote and Eagle, because they're going to bounce you back into a different world. And I need to say that I was so happy at the celebration of life that we had for Lynn. We played Coyote and danced and danced and danced and remembered your contribution, Scarlett. So thank you so much.
This is something I read in front of a concert I did recently in Malibu, to a spiritual group. Some of them were foundations, including the Patrick McCullum Foundation, working towards helping the indigenous tribes of the Amazon, the Kogi in particular, protect their land and their beloved rainforest, and all of the power of the generations that have existed, that are the bearers of that wisdom to this day. So just prior to performing, I went to the microphone and said, For centuries, women and indigenous cultures that lived in peace and peaceful coexistence have been subdued and annihilated by force. The sacred feminine and humanity has steadily been led by force onto a path of domination and disconnection from nature and each other. And the consequences are all around us. The noble creatures of the air, the land, and the sea are being crowded out of existence, and the Great Mother cannot endure much more. But she is calling, and we are the answer. The choice is ours, to lead by example, to act with deeds, not words, to love, respect, and defend the earth and each other. Oh,
I would really like to be able to repeat that some kind of way.
you know what? I'll photograph it and send it to you.
Yes, because what's been happening here is I have a spiritual center and we do drumming here, but we also do the Stargate. We're talking about a disconnect. I had a lot of people that were very interested in the Stargate in wanting to go to the stars, and a lot of people that were afraid of that and only wanted to sit and drum and stay with the earth. So what I've been called to do is bring them both together recently.
Yeah.
We're drumming with the Stargate energy because, after all, our indigenous ancestors talk to the star beings. It's how they learn to do what they learn to do. So right now, I'm trying to bring everything together. So what you're saying is we need to pay attention and we need to connect like we did before. It was easy before. We connected. We spoke to those who we needed to help us. And what you just said is so powerful. To all the parts of the earth. We only look at little tiny parts, but the earth itself, there's many parts, that we can look at that what your beautiful words will speak to. And the Amazon and the indigenous people, and they have something to say now. Yeah. And it is time for us to listen.
Absolutely.
So if you would send me that, I would love to be able to speak it from you and say, this is something that my friend has written that I find so profound.
Yes, I will send it to you later.
I've got something I want you to bring up because for me, do you remember when she had I guess it was the teachings from Delphi, where she had you as the kind of the goddesses, and the new apprentices would come in and speak to the teachers? Do you remember that?
Yeah. We would
Yes.
put a whole costume on. Yes.
Yes. I was one of your students, and you were a goddess for me. And I thought that was really cool, where we would ask questions and you would answer. What was that all about for you?
Okay, I remember the Oracle teachings. They were very profound because she put us in a position of being a goddess for a moment. And we took it seriously because we were going to be speaking to the participants coming to us with very deep and profound questions. So we had to remove our own identities, dress the part of the oracle, sometimes with a veil over our face. So they really maybe not even know who we were, kind of a disguise without and within. And it would also help us go inward. I recall using the power deck as one of the tools. If someone asked me a question, each of us that were an oracle touched people with some profound problems and issues they couldn't address to anyone else or didn't want to address to anyone else. This was like a sacred moment, almost like to a priestess, where you have their full confidence to say or ask the most deepest question that you've been yearning for an answer. And I think being an oracle, we actually stepped into it. Those answers came from a distant place.
I think so too. That was a very special moment for me. She did so many things that was so profound. We always created something to take home with us so that we would remember whatever we did at the workshop. And for me, it was like, oh no, I've got to create something. I've got to be an artist. I've got to make some kind of a creation so that I would remember the moments that we shared at these, they were usually 3 to 4 day workshops. And she always wanted us to create something we could bring back with us. But part of those workshops was, again, the oracles. And she always had, different teachings going on at the time. But I do remember for myself having to learn to go inside myself and find the artist within me that was hidden and was always there. But my belief system, my old patterns and belief system said, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. And it was hard. But the minute that I got into it and really let myself go, probably like you're singing, I started creating something. And in the beginning, it was like very small and not very big. But by the time the 4 days was up, I had actually created something that I could bring home with me. And I have them sitting on an altar now, all these little things that I made, at all of Lynn's different workshops that were all a part of me because I created them. It's amazing, really, the way that she worked with us to help us find ourselves. And this was one of the ways, was to create something that reminded you of yourself, even if it was a doll or a power stick or whatever it was. It's a part of yourself that she always had us do that I thought was very profound. And I'm wondering, do you remember any of those times, Scarlett?
Always. She said we learn by experience. I remember her saying that many, many times. And that is why it was so important that she find all unique vehicles at each Joshua tree, each teaching, that would take us into physical experience, such as walking on the land, walking the labyrinth, making, as you say, making the dolls. I recall making the spiral of your life. Do you recall that one?
Yes, I do.
No one has ever thought about making a spiral over your whole life. That was a really profound way of looking at your life, on a spiral from the beginning to where you are, and then going back into the spiral, and then bringing that home with you. So many other things we made of clay. We worked with stones. She taught us that experiences are the things that will really help you remember what you learned. It will really sink that experience into you much deeper than just words.
I so agree with you. I'm sitting here in my center and I have a couple of dolls that I created. I always had resistance in going to create some of the things she wanted us to create, but now I am absolutely so blessed that I did do them. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, I'm so blessed because now all of these lessons that I learned, I am teaching others here at my center. And I'm teaching them, like she said, from a place of experience. Of course, you can teach whatever you want to teach, but to be able to teach from your own experience, from your own heart, I think really resonates and rings a bell with those who are around. Pretty much like what you were talking about, Scarlett, because you've done the music, you feel what it's like to be an ancestor, in the jungles, and it resonates with everyone. So all those things that she taught, and I'm saying this because she has passed, but she's not passed because she's here with us. She is kind of poking us like Ruby and Agnes would do. All right, get going. This stuff. Don't let it go to sleep. For me, it was courageous because I was really uneasy with bringing the drumming and some of her teachings into this Stargate that I do right here. But what happened was magic. When I started doing that, people were saying, wow, that cracked me open to a place where I've not been before. So the more that you're afraid of doing something, the more you should do it, is what I'm feeling. It's like, it's really not fear, it's excitement in what you're going to go forward and do. I am feeling right now that the lessons that we have all learned from her over the years, and there's been many. I mean, how did she have to fight for what she did? Nobody believed her in the beginning. Really, it was difficult for her to get going, but yet she did it. And now we're asked to do the same thing. And I don't think we're going to be able to rest, because I feel that poker. I feel that poker inside of me. And I know that it's inside of her graduates to go forward now, because we've got something to say. So let's celebrate us for sure, my friend.
I'm excited to celebrate Lynn and these teachings with all of the kindred spirits and all that are coming after us, and the students that are coming to you. New ones we are going to welcome, including men that are on the same path of heart with us, so that we reclaim this beautiful earth together.
I agree 100%. And I thank you again. This has been joyous for me to speak with you like this. You know what? I have to also say, I am so grateful for the creators of Zoom and our computers, because this wasn't available, back in the day at all. And now look what we get to do, throughout the world, we're able to bring a message. And so I'm going to send a little bit of gratitude to the creators of Zoom and this computer and the internet and all of the satellites and everything else that's going on right now, because we really have an opportunity to shine. So my gratitude goes out to that, and to Michael for putting us all together in some kind of way. I don't know how we'll end up, but I'm sure it'll be beautiful. So I thank Michael, I thank you, Scarlett, and we'll go forward.
Thank you, Diane. I have one more PS. I want to continue to do a full-length Voice of the Animals, and that is much bigger and broader. It has more animals than it did before. And I have already started, and I'm in the middle of it. And there will be a new artwork and new animals on it that were not there before, like the elephant, and the bear, the monkey, the primate will be also on it.
Scarlett, that's what I was feeling when I said there's something in you that's coming out. Yeah, I could see it and I could feel it. And that's so exciting. I can hardly wait. And I know that it's going to be so profound and so right on time. So please get that beautiful recording to us.
Okay. Blessings to you. Blessings. Thank you, Michael. We will meet again.
Thank you.
Blessings to everyone in the Sisterhood.